Your local congressman, your local representative's office is supposed to be your advocate, going to bat for you in combating the malaise sometimes of federal bureaucracy and paperwork, and that's our job.
The Small Business Rundown is the official podcast of the National Federation of Independent Business, the member-driven voice of small business. NFIB and our members advocate to keep America's small businesses strong and independent in Washington, D.C., all 50 states, and the nation's courts.
Welcome to the Small Business Rundown, a biweekly podcast with information on independent businesses' victories and challenges in Washington, D.C. and state capitals. I'm Adam Temple, NFIB Senior Vice President of Advocacy. Joining me today is John Byers, the Chief of Staff for U.S. House Representative August Pfluger of Texas, to touch on the most effective ways to communicate with your representatives in Congress and the role of small business owners' voices and stories in the legislative process. Jeff Brabant, NFIB's Vice President of Federal Government Relations, also joins us to share his insights on these meetings. Thanks, guys, for joining me.
Happy to be here.
Thanks for having me, Adam.
John, can you start by just giving us a simple explanation of your role in Representative Pfluger's office?
Sure, great. Well, let me thank your audience for tuning in and being a part of this today. NFIB is a major force here on Capitol Hill, and when they speak, we definitely listen up here. So I thank your team for what they do. I thank your advocates for what they do. I thank your small business owners for what they do. It's often thought of as the backbone of the economy, as the backbone of the American economic system. And I try to frequent small businesses as often as I can. And we're incredibly thankful for all the men and women out there of this country that prioritize, have taken a passion in a particular issue, a niche calling, a family business, a personal interest, a hobbyist that has made something out of nothing. That entrepreneurial spirit is what drives America. So it's a pleasure to be with you. So I serve as Congressman Pfluger's Chief of Staff. That means I basically run 7 offices. We have an office in Washington, D.C., where obviously we deal with policy issues, where we deal with communications to the press, to our constituents, to outside stakeholders. We run an operations department, which is getting the congressman from point A to point B, the backbone of running 6 offices in Texas that are spread out geographically. These are constituent services offices. These are the offices in your communities where your members should go and seek assistance when dealing with a federal bureaucracy. And I don't mean bureaucracy in a pejorative term. I mean that quite literally. There are hundreds of agencies that require navigation. We all know about the needs for renewing a passport or finding a missing Social Security check. But so often your members are faced with very difficult and very complex issues where you basically need an advocate, and where your advocates in your communities, your local congressman, your local representative's office is supposed to be your advocate, going to bat for you in combating the malaise sometimes of federal bureaucracy and paperwork. And that's our job. That's our job, to be there for you and to listen to what you need and to help you and your members meet a positive result.
Occasionally, NFIB throughout the year will have small business owners in D.C. to talk to their members of Congress face-to-face. What tips would you give a small business owner on how to approach that meeting with a member of Congress?
Be candid. Don't be afraid to ask. Nothing is too small to bring up. And pretend like we have no idea and start from the beginning. Tell us exactly what the problem is. Tell us how we can help. Tell us how we can fix whatever it is you're facing. If it's just a friendly meeting, if it's an introductory meeting, if it's an informative meeting where you're telling us this is what we do and we just want you to know we exist, we're delighted to take meetings like that. We're delighted to know that entrepreneurial spirit is alive and well in our district, whether it's a new restaurant, whether it's a new small business, whether it's a new manufacturing, whatever element of the economy is coming online in our district. We generally want to know about it. We want to know what you're working on. We want to know how many people you're employing. We want to know where you're going to be. We want to know, are you revitalizing a particular neighborhood or a storefront? Are you integrating yourself and providing a new service that maybe hasn't been provided to a neighborhood in a long time? Are you opening a restaurant that's going to be the hot new place? Yes, generally speaking, we want to know what's going on in our district. But where we often are more impactful is when you have a problem, when you're faced with something where you're not really sure where to turn, or you need a legislative fix, or there is some conflict in law where it's just not working anymore. Is it something with the tax code? Is it something with rules and regulations concerning overtime? Is it something with trade and imports? Is it something with your workforce? Is it something getting employees to be trained to do what you need them to do? Is it a generic conflict over a tax issue? You are paying more than you think you should be paying, and you have a case to be made that you're owed a refund. The issues like that come into our office every single day, and that's what we're there for. Is we encourage candor, we encourage people to come forward with what they need so that we can deliver. Don't be afraid to ask.
Don't be afraid to ask. That's a good tip. Jeff, you and your team have sat in on hundreds of these meetings that we're talking about right now. What benefits do you see for a small business owner that shares their perspective in person?
I think small business owners add a significantly different value than me as a lobbyist. So I'm a lobbyist. I'm not a business owner. I can't tell your story better than you can. I can go in and I can talk to John, or I could talk to Congressman Pfluger and give you macroeconomic statistics on why policy X may be a good or a bad thing for the small business community, and how many small business jobs it may affect in a good or bad way. And that is useful. And that's obviously why I'm employed here. But it's not nearly as useful as a small business owner from Congressman Pfluger's district coming in and saying, I operate out of this town in your district. You've probably been to my small business or walked right down the street from it. And if you do this, X or Y will happen to my small business. If you do this, I will have to lay off 3 employees. Or if you do this, conversely, I will be able to hire 3 new employees and help expand the local economy. So it's those stories where they could visualize the exact impact it's going to have that make a big difference.
Now we'll take a short break.
Becoming an NFIB member is the best way to find support, stay informed, and to make your voice heard. For more than 80 years, NFIB has been fighting for the interests of small businesses at the state and federal levels. Join now at nfib.com/join us to stay current on the issues that impact your small business most.
Welcome back. John, turning back to you, you gave us some tips for how a small business owner that's meeting with a member of Congress might share their story. And I think it was the first thing you said was be candid, which is not always easy for folks to do, so that's good advice. We also know that it's not always easy to deal with scheduling. It can be difficult, and NFIB members often meet with their lawmakers' staff because the member is busy, has been called in for votes, any number of other things. In our team's experience, those meetings can often be just as useful in communicating the implications for Main Street of laws, bills, regulations, and that sort of thing. So from your perspective, if a small business owner is meeting with a congressional staff instead of the member themselves, is there anything you'd add or change or tweak about how they should go about that meeting?
No, prepare for the meeting and conduct the meeting as if the member of Congress was still in the room, because we take those meetings just as seriously as the meetings that end up with the member. And you're absolutely right. A lot of times that's happenstance, right? They call a vote and they're stuck on the floor, waiting for people to cast their vote. And then there's a series and it takes forever. That unfortunately happens all the time. To any advocates out there listening to this, please don't take that personally. It truly is happenstance. If you find yourself with a congressional staffer such as myself, be just as candid, be just as direct. Tell us why, right? Give us that anecdote that makes us remember who you are and what you're fighting for and what you need. Tell us your story. Tell us the history behind your small business, whether it's a business that's been passed on through multiple generations. Tell us how many people you employ and the type of people you employ and how many mouths are fed by the work that you do, how much economic impact happens because of what you do, how many communities you get out in and make a difference in, how many local charitable events you've been a part of, a community that's underserved that you're going out there and providing a service that's never been out there before. We want to know all those things because the why, that human element, is what motivates us and often is what is remembered. I mean, we've met with dozens upon dozens of small businesses in this role over the years. I remember a lot of them if not nearly all of them, but the ones that stick out, the stories that clang in my head for the rest of that day and the rest of that week and to this very day are the stories that are well told, well organized, and paint that picture of how they serve into sort of this American tapestry here of what they do for our economic backbone and the uniqueness of it, the candor. All of that is very important, whether you're in the room with the member or whether you're in the room with a staffer.
So you mentioned the information that's most important to you, but what do you actually do with the stories shared in those meetings?
We convene as a staff and say, how can we help? What can we do? Where do we stand on this project or that project? And if it's clearly told to us what we can do, this is what I need you to do. This is the agency I need you to talk to. This is the hang up. This is where my stuff is stuck in customs. This is where my check is stuck at Treasury. This is where problem X needs to be solved. If we have crystal clear instructions as to what we can do to be helpful, we're going to do it. We're going to fight for you. We're your representative. We're going to go to bat for you and help solve this problem. And my advice sometimes is follow up, stay on us. Sometimes people, let's say they raise an issue with us with a federal agency, we call the federal agency, but the federal agency never calls us back, right? We'll certainly try to stay on them and be the squeaky wheel, but be the squeaky wheel with us. And the more you stay on our attention, the more you stay on our radar, the more you're reminding us of the issue or even the successful resolution of the issue, you're going to stick in our minds and stick in our memories, and that's effective advocacy.
And how often do you see these stories permeate and make their way into things like committee hearings, floor speeches?
All the time. We are constantly seeking the stories to tell on our national platform. Congressional hearings, press releases and statements. There are dozens of opportunities where we need people to step forward and say, this is what's happening to me, the good, the bad, and the ugly. This is the help I need from Washington. This is why we should pass this bill. This is why we shouldn't pass this bill. This is why we should have the agency change this or that. We need these real world stories and real people to use as an examples to motivate action to be taken.
John, here at NFIB, we often encourage our members to take action on issues that affect their small business. A lot of times that's in the form of an email to their senators or their representatives in Congress. We do get asked from time to time, so what happens now? And so I'll let you answer that question. How do communications from constituents impact the stance that a member of Congress might take on an issue?
It happens all the time. There are many times where it's the constituent that brings the issue to our attention. Don't assume we know every issue that you're facing. There are many times where a small business or a mid or large size business will call us up and enlighten us on a situation that we weren't aware of. It's not to say we don't broadly know the challenges facing the businesses, but sometimes these are small or they're sort of niche issues that need to be addressed, and you educate us on what you need and we turn around and get it done. So absolutely, that happens all the time. I'd say the most recent example is Texas was devastated by some flooding in July. Heartbreaking stories of lives lost and of damage done to personal and public property. Small Business Administration has been leaned on by dozens and dozens and dozens of businesses in our district to get back on their feet. These are people's livelihoods. They can't be shuttered for months on end as repairs are done or as supply chains are backlogged or access to particular roadways are managed. They need to be back on their feet immediately. They need to be back on their feet as soon as possible. And so that's what we're there for, to interface with the Small Business Administration, to interface with other federal agencies to make sure that our constituents, our small business owners, the entrepreneurs out there have what they need to be successful. So that's a recent example of us jumping into effect to respond to a change in real world circumstances such as the flood, where we needed to be at the ready and to respond to the constituent need. And I can tell you that our offices were inundated with inquiries from individuals and public entities and small businesses saying, I need help. Can you help?
Right. And Jeff, we've got a lot of examples like that John talked about, including from Representative Pfluger's office. And before we let John get back to it, is there anything you'd like to add on the insights that he's provided for us today?
I'd like to reiterate one of John's earlier points, which is don't be shy. If you're a small business owner, I can't tell you how many times, Adam, we have small business owners in town, and you talk about what they're going to say, and a lot of times the member of Congress is in the room and they get shy, and that's normal. Most people get nervous about something they haven't done before, but and they tend to lean on talking points when they get shy. And the talking points are great, but it's the personal story and telling how specifically it affects your business that is most useful. So if you do get lucky enough to be in front of a member of Congress or a member of Congress's staff, don't be shy. Tell your story. Make sure they know exactly how it affects your business.
Thanks, Jeff. John, before you get back to work, anything else you'd like to add?
I appreciate greatly what NFIB does, and I mean it sincerely, that when they're in our inbox, when they're in our office in person, when they're on the phone, we take that very seriously. A very effective organization advocating for the millions upon millions of small business owners out there. And I mean it sincerely when I thank the small business owners of our district and all across the country for the work that they've done to build our economy, to employ people, to provide good wages, and to provide good services to people across this country. We would be nowhere if not for that American entrepreneurial spirit. So thank you for all that you do, and thank you for inviting me to be a part of it. And I'm always available to anybody who needs assistance navigating the federal government and Congress, and was delighted to be with you today.
Thank you, John. Appreciate you taking the time to spend with us, and also for Representative Pfluger's advocacy on behalf of small businesses, not only those in Texas through the constituent services, but also through his support of legislation that impacts all small businesses across the country. So we really appreciate your time and the office's services to small businesses.
My pleasure. Thank you.
As we close out today's conversation, I want to reiterate the importance of getting involved and taking action on issues that affect your small business. Your voice, your stories, and your experiences help shape better legislation for small businesses across the country. Links to take action on small business issues are in this episode's show notes. Looking ahead, if there's anything you'd like us to cover on a future podcast, please send us an email at podcast@nfib.org. Now I want to thank you, the listeners, for joining us on today's Small Business Rundown. We'll be back every 2 weeks bringing you news and analysis from Washington, D.C. and state capitals so that you, whether you're a small business owner or a supporter of one, can continue to blaze a trail.
The Small Business Rundown is brought to you by NFIB, the voice of small business. You can find us at nfib.com and on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn.